If I went around the room right now and asked each and every one of you, have you found your life's purpose yet? There would be a whole mix of emotions, of responses. Some of you would be like, I really want to find my purpose, but I have this job and that's definitely not my purpose. And my kids have busy schedules. And, in this season of my life, trying to find my purpose is really hard. Some of you might feel like, well, that's all I want to do, but I don't know where to start looking. I don't know what to do. Some of you may feel like you found your life's purpose. You love what you do. You feel inspired. You feel like you're exactly where you need to be. But there's still maybe thoughts inside of you like, well, should I refine this? Do I need to be doing more of this and less of that? Finding your purpose is really difficult because the world makes you think that somewhere out there, there's this big, huge thing that you have to find that will completely identify you as who you're supposed to be, what people will remember you by. It's a lot of pressure. It reminds me so much of my favorite board game of all time, the Murder Mystery board game Clue, right? It's epic. It's awesome. You get to be a detective. You get to figure out who the murderer is, what room they did it in, what weapon. And at the beginning of the game, all 3 of those clues are put into this little manila envelope marked confidential. And you spend the whole game trying to figure out what those little 3 cards are. And it's so much the way finding your purpose feels, isn't it? It's like God holds this little manila envelope that says who you are, where you're supposed to be, what you're good at, and you are supposed to go out into the world and figure it out. It's a mystery. And that's the problem with finding your purpose, right? Because it makes you feel like you don't have it right now. It's in the future. And the problem with it being in the future is there's no time and place where the future exists. Okay, the future and the past, they only exist within your mind. They're not actually real. You can't go there. You can't change anything. You can't make sure at 100% that something's going to happen. The only thing that is absolutely real is the now moment, right now. And so if the only moment that is real is right now, then this is the only time that God can use us. So the problem is the finding, not the purpose. You cannot find your purpose. You have to live your purpose. And in my walk, I feel like God has really humbled me in this idea of what my purpose is. He's really stripped away the layers and shown me that what I'm here to do on this earth, what my real purpose is, and what your real purpose is twofold, 2 things, 2 essential things that we have to live every day. And the first is we need to transcend our life lessons. And the second is to be an influencer. I want to talk first about transcending your life lessons. It doesn't matter how you showed up here today. You could be in a good place, a bad place, a stuck place, a sad place. It does not matter. You are in a life lesson. God is trying to teach you something right now. And usually we can find our life lessons in things that agitate us, things that don't fit, right? Stuff that makes us angry, that makes us sad, that makes us frustrated. It can be, our home, it can be our spouse, it can be our relationship that we're in, our job. We cannot like our kids' teachers. It could be 1,000 things, right? But we see it as agitation in our life, and that is a big indicator that we are out of alignment in something, and there is a lesson there for us. And to transcend something means that you rise above it. So the only way to learn your life lesson and to move on is to choose the light and love option, right? Not the option out of fear, not the option out of anger, any of those negative emotions. You must choose the light and love option, learn this lesson, and transcend it, and you will become better and better and better in life, in your personality, in your authenticity. Everything changes the more life lessons you transcend. And I want to bring you to James in the Bible. Now, James was Jesus's brother, and I feel like James really understood what it meant, watching Jesus, to transcend our life lessons, to understand what was really important at the root of why we are here. And he says this in James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. He says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete and not lacking in anything." So James says we're going to face trials. These are the lessons that I'm talking about. And when we choose the light and love option, when we finally transcend it, that we develop perseverance. We'll never go back there. We'll never do that again. I want you to take a minute here, and I want you to pull into your memory bank the last big life lesson you transcended. Maybe it was a job that you finally quit and you got a better one. Maybe it was a relationship that finally ended and now you're in a better one, with someone who supports you and loves you the way that you've always supposed to be supported and loved. Don't miss this opportunity. Think of something. What did it feel like when you were in the lesson? It wasn't pure joy like what James says here, but I don't think he's talking about what it feels like to be in the lesson. I think he's talking about the aftermath, right? Think about what it felt like to finally choose rightly, to have that burden lifted from you, the elephant taken off of your shoulders, and how amazing you felt afterwards. And you probably look back at it and you're like, I'm not going back there. There's no way I'm going back there. Right? Because it had to work itself out. But once it worked itself out, you're like, okay, I definitely feel more mature being this way. I feel more complete. Right? I have true faith in what I need and what I want. It's really beautiful. Now, I make this sound easy, but sometimes it's not easy, right? Sometimes we don't even know what lesson we're in. We think, well, life's pretty good. I don't really know if I'm in a lesson, Katie. I feel like I just kind of flow along, Trust me, you are in a lesson. There is something here for you to transcend. And some of you might be like, I know what my lesson is. I've learned it over and over and over. I've had the same job that I hate. I've been in the same relationship or multiple relationships with the same kind of personality. Like, your lesson, but you're not quite sure what to do about it. You're like, well, what am I supposed to do? What is the light and love option that helps me get out of this? Well, James talks about it. He goes on in verse 5. He says, if any of you lacks in wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. And I love what James says here. Everything is so important. It's so specific, right? If you don't know what your lesson is, if you don't know what you're supposed to do about it, wherever you are in this process, you can pray about it. Ask God. And some of us, when we have these life lessons that we've been in for a while, we almost feel judged, right? When we talk to our friends and our family about it, they're like, leave them, it's like, get out of there, quit the job. And, from the outside, it seems so simple, but it's not simple, right? There's some big things that are tucked within these life lessons. Maybe there's kids, maybe there's a financial strain that might happen if you make this decision, right? And so God is not going to find fault with you. He gets it. He's like, listen, I know you've had to learn this lesson 1,000 times, but that doesn't mean that I turn away from you, that I'm not here hoping you'll turn towards me. I am here, and I am not going to find fault with you. I love you. So there's no judgment there. How awesome is that? And I think some of us feel like, okay, well, if I pray, I may get the answers, but it may be shrouded in this mystery. I'm still going to have to figure it all out myself. No, that's not what James says. He says that God will give generously to you. And I don't know all the answers, but I'm going to tell you the answers that I do know about how God communicates with you, what it looks like to get this generous love. Sometimes in my life, when I have had the same lesson and I'm just down on my knees, desperate for relief, twice in my life, God has literally given me the words. He has spoken to me. And it's so powerful and impactful. It's like, did that just happen? I mean, you can't even believe it, but it does. Sometimes God will just give you the words. But you don't have to just wait for the words, okay? That's not the only way God communicates. And it's definitely not the most important. We think, oh, if God talks to me, that's the most important. But it's not. Every communication he sends to you is important. So God is going to first send you people. God loves to send people, good people, people that will support you, that will be like a light that you can follow. God will send you books. He will send you retreats. He will send you Facebook posts. Everything that you need will be given to you. Okay? All the signs will be there. So when you ask, you have to then turn on your awareness to pick up everything that God is sending. James goes on to talk about what it means when God is giving generously to you and you are ignoring it. Okay? He says in verse 6, but when he asks, he must believe and not doubt. That means when you pray about it, when you ask God, what's my lesson? What am I supposed to do about it? And God gives you the signs, even if they're hard things, even if they're scary things, even if they're things that you've been putting off for years and years and you don't want to do, it doesn't matter. You cannot doubt it, right? You have to do it. He says, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. James is telling you what you are. You are unstable. You do not have a good foundation underneath you. And God is here to correct that, but you have to do what you've been asked to do. And all of us stay in this gray area way too long, don't we? We do. It's like, sometimes we have all the answers. We know we've got to trust. We know we've got to move on. We know we have to have faith, right? But we sit there in our fear. We sit there in our anxieties and we don't move. And here's the thing. God cannot move a parked car. You got to at least be in neutral. Better yet, in a gear. You got to move. Okay? It's a really big deal. Now, this is a process, how we attack these life lessons, how we transcend them. There is an order in which you go about this every single time. And I have used this WWJD to outline it. Most of you know what this is, right? It stands for What Would Jesus Do? And the first W you have to ask yourself is, what is the lesson? What am I supposed to be learning right now? And we find that through our agitation. We find that through what isn't in alignment. What doesn't feel good? What doesn't fit in my life, causing me suffering? And then the second W is, what would Jesus do? Right? What is the light and love option here? Because the thing is, if you don't choose the higher frequency, the godly choice, and you choose the darker choice, the fear, the anxiety, you will continue this life lesson until you learn it, until you choose rightly. So what would Jesus do? Right? He's who we look to, who sets the example for all of us. And then the J stands for Jesus. Ask Jesus. If you're not praying through this entire series of trying to transcend your life lessons, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You've got to pray. It is the most powerful tool in the world that you have. God gave you a spirit that you can tap into that leads directly to God. And if you go within this channel and ask, it will be given to you. So you got to pray. And then the D stands for do it. Do it. Even if you're terrified, do it anyways. Okay? Because the pure joy that James says you will feel comes afterwards. It's when you're mature, it's when you're complete, right? You no longer have to be in the trenches. You can rise above it. So transcending life lessons, and as you transcend one and one and one and another one, you get higher and higher and higher. And the higher you get, the more God can use you in the moment, because you're not caught up in all your own suffering. That is where your purpose lies, in being available, right? You're available. You're not in so much pain and suffering that you can actually be used in the moment. It's so beautiful. I want this for each and every one of you. I want to move on to the second thing that your purpose is, what living your purpose means. You need to be an influencer. Now, in this modern age, we see that an influencer is several things on social media. And some of these people, they truly are influencers. They really are. But an influencer is someone who holds an energy, who holds an authentic nature within them that allows people to naturally be drawn to them for understanding. And the best way to be an influencer is to hold space. And what I mean by holding space is to look at the trials, the life lessons that you have transcended, that you have gotten out of, to realize that in each of those, you have something to offer and something to give, and to give it with pure humility and understanding and 100% compassion to the next person that needs it. This is a really big deal. It is not your job to reach down into the trenches and to grab somebody's hand and to try to drag them up into this higher vibration, this transcendence that you have found. It doesn't work that way. We all have to journey it ourselves. We all have an inner guide that is the smartest possible guide we can tune into. So it's not about your journey, it's about their journey. Your job is to hold space and say, you know what? I think you're incredible. I think you're worthy. I think you deserve better. I believe in you and I'm here to support you. This door is open. You can come anytime. I'm holding space for you here. When you finally let go and let God, you can join me here. And there's no ego in it. It's 100% compassion. And the way we find this 100% compassion is because we've already lived it. We know exactly what we needed in that moment. We needed people not to judge us. We needed people to understand we're going through something tough and to not condemn us for it. Right? This is what we need to offer the world. I think the best way to really describe what the perfect influencer is described in this beautiful poem. It's called I Stand at the Door, and it's written by Sam Shoemaker. He was a co-creator of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I absolutely love this poem. And it's lengthy, but I want you to tune in to every word because it's so important. So if you've tuned out somewhere, please tune back in. Okay? I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There is no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is only the wall where the door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind man, with outstretched groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door, yet they never find it. So I stand by the door. The most tremendous thing in the world is for men to find that door, the door to God. The most important thing that any man can do is to take hold of one of those blind groping hands and put it on the latch that only clicks and opens to the man's own touch. Men die outside the door as starving beggars die on cold nights in cruel cities in the dead of winter. Die for want of what is within their grasp. They live on the other side of it, live because they have not found it. Nothing else matters compared to helping them find it, and open it and walk in and find Him. So I stand by the door. Go in, great saints, go all the way in, go way down into the cavernous cellars and way up to the spacious attics. It is a vast roomy house, this house where God is. Go into the deepest of hidden casements, of withdrawal, of silence, of sainthood. Some must inhabit those inner rooms and know the depths and the heights of God and call outside to the rest of us of how wonderful it is. Sometimes I take a deeper look in, and sometimes I venture in a little further, but my place seems closer to the opening, so I stand by the door. There's another reason why I stand there. Some people get part way in and they become afraid lest God and the zeal of His house devour them, for God is so very great and asks all of us. And these people feel a cosmic claustrophobia and want to get out. Let me out, they cry. And the people way inside only terrify them more. Somebody must be by the door to tell them that they are spoiled for the old life. They have seen too much. One taste of God and nothing but God will do any more. Somebody must be watching for the frightened to sneak out just where they came in. To tell them how much better it is inside. The people too far in do not see how near these are to leaving, preoccupied with the wonder of it all. Somebody must watch for those who have entered the door, but would like to run away. So for them too, I stand by the door. I admire the people who go way in, but I wish they would not forget how it was before they got in. Then they would be able to help the people who have not yet even found the door, or the people who want to run away again from God. You can go in too deeply and stay in too long and forget the people outside the door. As for me, I shall take my old accustomed place, near enough to God to hear him and know he is there, but not so far from men as to not hear them. And remember, they are here too. Where? Outside the door. Thousands of them, millions of them. But more important for me, one of them, two of them, 10 of them, whose hands I am intended to put on the latch. So I shall stand by the door and wait for those who seek it. I had rather be a doorkeeper, so I stand by the door. Do you feel the humble compassion? Right? I can't walk your walk. I can't decide for you, but if you're here, I can help. Being an influencer is so important, and I think all of us, we want our purpose to mean something. Right? And when we help people, it's the most in purpose we could possibly feel. There's nothing in this material world that compares. It's a vibration so high that we never want to come down from it. So I encourage you to stop finding your purpose. Stop thinking it's some big, great thing that you have to do out in the world that everybody's going to remember you for. It's not what it is. It's simpler than that. It's not easier, it's simpler. Transcend your life lessons one at a time. Do it with God. You're not supposed to do this alone. The greatest lesson of all time is to let go and let God. That's what he's really trying to teach you, and it happens lesson by lesson. And you will feel lighter and lighter and more alive the more you transcend them. And I think that's how we all want our purpose to feel. And then you turn around and you hold space for everybody else. Because there's no place where you end and the next person begins. So when you raise your vibration, your energies, when you transcend things, you shift the whole world with you. You hold space for the next one along, and you find that through the compassion of learning these life lessons. Know that I'm praying for you with this. You can do this. You were meant for this. You were designed for this. Go with God, go with love and light.